All right, everybody. We are live. We are live here on a Wednesday edition of the Slate, the highest rated edition of the Slate, Monday through Friday here on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. Geoff Ulrich, the Canadian Prince of Poutine, Reid Fowler, the happy hairy Hawaiian, two gorgeous golf gurus when they are together. I am Emerson Lotzia. Gentlemen, it is really good to see you, and happy belated birthday to Reid. Reid, do you remember people on our team, our incredible DraftKings team, who did not say happy birthday to you?
Yeah, I do.
Good. Would one of them be on the screen right now?
Yeah, 100%. There's a couple of guys behind the screen as well.
Oh, yes.
Do you want to know what's even worse? Do you want to know? I actually wished Brendan Glasheen happy birthday today, too. So not only did I bypass Reid's birthday, but I wished Glasheen.
Isn't Glasheen's birthday? Is it today? Is Glasheen's birthday?
That's BS. Yeah, Reid. We know what's going on between you two. You don't have to say anything. It's all good. Also, Howie, if you know Howie and Howard behind the scenes, who does a lot more work for us and works his tail off, way more work than Glash. You should be saying happy birthday to Howie, not Glash today.
Happy birthday, Howie.
Glash even.
People who do not tell us happy birthday on our birthday and days later, Geoff. But yeah, we're gonna get into some Tiger Woods here later on, guys. Why not when we have our golf gurus with us? This week's Hero World Challenge going down in the Bahamas. Who your favorite bets are there. We'll do the same for Sunday's main slate in the NFL. We'll do a lot of DFS chatter here. We're up until about 5:55 or so. Week 13 does kick off tomorrow night. But before we do that, I know Reid Fowler would like to, I guess, express his frustration a little bit with the Seahawks, who, by the way, just picked up Adrian Peterson, the ageless wonder. I think he's going to be on the practice squad starting off.
Yeah, let's just start here because I'm going to need some time. Anybody with two eyes who watched Monday night realizes that there is a changing of the guard, right? Changing of the guard, I mean this in a myriad of ways, is like that. Maybe this is a microcosm of a bigger issue that we see in the NFL, guys, is that guys like Pete Carroll, even quarterbacks like Russell Wilson. I think Russell Wilson is one of the best quarterbacks that we've seen, one of the most accurate quarterbacks, but this gets in the way. And yes, it does talk about fantasy football, but also people who bet on the games and just people who are fans of Seattle, fans of their team, is that when you see what we saw on Monday night with Russell Wilson, it is a complete travesty of how the NFL game is supposed to be played, in my opinion. Pete Carroll and maybe Shane Waldron, time and time again, rely on someone like Russell Wilson, who, by all accounts, by what I'm watching, is someone who's only out for himself. And what I mean by that, guys, is a guy who's on the front, on face value, someone who seems like a stand-up guy is only worried about one thing, and it makes sense, is that where is he going to be next year? What's my trade value, right? And it's a travesty to Seattle because what he's meant to that organization, you see what he's doing, right? You see exactly what he's doing. He's passing it to Gerald Everett 15 times a game, comes out and says Gerald Everett is going to be more involved. He's a tight end that couldn't even beat out Tyler Higbee, for one, right? And he hasn't been healthy all season. And number two, your best player, the most dominant player, not just between the 20s, but inside the 20 now, the highest PFF grade in DK Metcalf, he only sees 4 targets, 2 of which that were 90 feet above his head. Russell Wilson is looking out for number 3. And the reason being is, he said this too, this is where I'll leave it, is that his whole thing now, right, is how can I increase my value? I'm not going to throw into double coverage because it's going to intercept it. I'm not accurate right now with my finger. I came back 2 to 3 weeks way earlier than I should have, right? I'm pretending like I'm Russell Wilson, Mr. Unlimited BS, right? Like, and so he's not going to throw into double coverage. And he mentioned, I looked DK's way. He was double covered a bunch of times. He called back-to-back plays. No, he didn't. I watched every single play of that game. He did not look DK's way, other than the 2 or 3 times where he sailed the ball over his head and on that last catch. So he's not throwing into double coverage, right? Because he doesn't want to get the ball intercepted. And he's not, and it's essentially the scapegoat of Pete Carroll saying, look, if we're losing, it's not because of me, right? I got us 2 touchdowns. It's because of the play calling. I think Russell Wilson right now, if anybody's looking out there to trade for him, any team, I'd be worried, right? I'd be worried right now by what we're seeing because this guy's not running the ball. and he's the most inaccurate that he's been in his entire career. I just think if you're Seattle, and then the punctuate the Adrian Peterson, why? Your season is done already.
Yeah.
Get these younger players more run. Get these guys more run for next year. Adrian Peterson will not help your team, just like Alex Collins is not helping your team. You're 3-8. What are you doing? If I was a Seattle Seahawks fan, I'd be extremely mad. I think the Jets and the Texans are in a much better spot than Seattle right now, because Seattle actually thinks they're good when they're not. The Jets and the Texans know they're bad.
Let my guy Travis Homer, the pride of Oxbridge Academy in West Palm Beach, Florida, let him eat. Let him eat.
Much better than Adrian Peterson. Adrian Peterson is one of the best running backs that we'll ever see. He's fantastic, but his time is done. Like, his time is done. He's not going to help. You think running into the offensive line, defensive line 10 times a game is going to help your 3 and outs? They tied themselves right earlier this year with the most consecutive 3 and outs with 5. They tied the league leading right most with themselves. Shane Waldron should go whatever he was doing before he was an offensive coordinator. That's what he should be doing. He is not an offensive coordinator. If that's what you bring out on Monday night, oh dear God, if I'm a Seattle fan, I am worried.
Get ready for like an off season of just Russ workout videos, him tossing dimes and darts to prove to everybody he can still do it.
Like, come back when you like.
Since we're on the Seahawks, to Reid's point, how dumb are the Seahawks now for not taking the 4 first-round draft picks? Are people going to be offering that next year? Like Reid said, they had a chance to rebuild. They had a chance to do everything. They could have Justin Fields and like the first rounders, man. Think about, this is why teams overvalue their assets in the NFL, man. I mean, they could have rebuilt so easily. And I'm not saying Russ isn't worth a lot. He's my favorite quarterback, but man, like Seattle, they should have taken him, man. Just like the Texans, as soon as Deshaun Watson asked for a trade, they just unloaded him right away. They would have got the assets. They wouldn't have had to deal with the off the field stuff.
It's the pride that gets in the way of Russell Wilson, right? Like, the guy is one of the most accurate players. He was missing wide open receivers by at least 5 yards. So he's like, I'm going to do this. I need to do this. I'm better than this. You're not. Geno Smith gives them a better chance to win.
There'll still be a big market for Russell Wilson this offseason. But yeah, like Reid said, they're a year behind in an obvious rebuild spot now. So
yeah, and they're going to get smoked by the 49ers on Sunday.
Oh, God,
feels like it.
Man. And like Jimmy G right now, not only handsome, but he actually looks like a pretty decent quarterback again.
3 straight.
Yep. What's going to kick off week 13, though, is the game that's on the screen right now. It's going to be Cowboys. It's going to be the Saints. So Taysom Hill is going to be getting the start. I think Alvin Kamara is questionable still. I know Zeke doesn't carry an injury tag. I think Mari Cooper could be returning, right? I think he's questionable tomorrow night. Question is, I'll start with you, Geoff. It was 5-point favorite about an hour and a half ago. Now the Cowboys a 4-point favorite on the road. Are you leaning that way, even without their head coach, Mike McCarthy, who is in COVID protocol?
Yeah. So, I mean, the Mike McCarthy stuff, I don't know. Yeah, this game has turned. There's a lot of twists and turns in this game. I mean, if you had, presented us this game 2 weeks ago when everyone was high in the Cowboys, people, like a -4 for the Cowboys, no Jameis Winston, man. Like, this is way too low. Now you look at it, and the Cowboys lost a couple in the row. There's no head coach. Taysom Hill is now in a quarterback, which is I think it's an interesting move for the Saints. Let's not forget they go like 4-2 with Taysom Hill last year. It was a winning record regardless. I think it's a better move for them because that's kind of who they are as a team. And, we still have like injury news on Amari Cooper to deal with. I do not want to trust the Cowboys in the spot, but I think you have to. Like, I really do think you have to. They are clearly still the better team here from an offensive perspective. I think they're going to be able to run the ball a little bit. And if they do, like, their defense should be able to kind of, hold up against Taysom Hill. But this is not a spot I'm super confident in. I am going to side with the Cowboys here, but this is not like I do think that there's, it's not the greatest spot. Like, you might even see this line move down to 3.5. I mean, I don't think you need to hammer it right away. So I don't know if Reid has a different take, but I'll give the Cowboys one more week here, just because the metrics say that this is the better team. But even though they haven't really looked at it the last couple of weeks.
It's interesting too, Reid, just something to keep in mind. It's typically on a Thursday night. We're talking about teams on a short week. Both these teams played on Thanksgiving. So it's like a regular week for these two squads.
Yeah. I have no faith in Saints whatsoever. Right. Like, I mean, Kamara's coming back potentially, but like when you talk about, then they got some injuries too on the offensive line. New Orleans does. And if that's going to, be an issue, if they're going to be out right on Thursday, tomorrow, then you look at the Dallas Cowboys, who are, decent in getting pressure. Micah Parsons looks like one of the better draft picks in the first round with what he's doing, right? He's close to, I think he's like third in total sacks this year as a rookie, which is fantastic. And especially in a league where you have some mobile quarterbacks, like that's been pretty impressive. You take a look at Dallas now getting back CeeDee Lamb, and Amari Cooper looks like he's going to go. And, you have that 1-2 punch, Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott. Well, let's not forget, too, you have Dak Prescott going against the Saints secondary. That's not great, right? The Saints, their best asset is their run defense. But we've seen the Philadelphia Eagles absolutely trounce the Saints, their run defense. And now you got Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard, probably the best 1-2 punch that we have right now in running backs. I think Dallas is way undervalued. I rarely say that because Dallas is one of the most publicly bet teams in all of sports. And so we never get a fair line. We never get fair value. But like in this one, I think you're buying fairly low on Dallas after that loss to the Raiders. And the Raiders do this, right? They come out and they win these games that they're not supposed to because everything goes perfect. Sans the 4,000 penalties that were called in that game. And you can speculate why that was the case. Like Dallas, I think, got a lot of the unfair advantage in that game, especially with that. And they had a good game plan. The Raiders did. They went deep. Obviously, they passed deep. They didn't have Darren Waller, but they passed deep and they ran the ball with Josh Jacobs when they were up by a score and a half. I just think they were way undervalued. I have no faith in the Saints. I like Taysom Hill, more I think than the casual person. I think most people hate Taysom Hill for whatever reason. Yeah. I think it's fine, but I think Dallas is way undervalued. And who is Taysom Hill going to pass the ball to? There's no Mike Thomas. It's Marquez Callaway. I don't even know if Adam Trautman is healthy anymore. It's Mark Ingram. It's Alvin Kamara. And Deante Harris has been banged up. If Taysom Hill can pass to himself, sure. But he's also dealing with the foot injury. So, and Sean Payton's been this like, we'll see. So how can you bet on the Saints? You don't even know the quarterback situation. So give me Dallas Cowboys. I think they're going to trounce.
I'll be dead honest. Hearing Reid talk has moved me from like 70% to like 80% on Dallas now. So
also with the question, like at quarterback there and all of the facts that Reid was just spitting, all that knowledge he was dropping on us, like, and I know you're Mr. Over, Geoff, that to me would convince me alone just to take like the under here, despite the two teams combining to average like 53 points per game, which is almost 6 points more than this total.
Yeah, I think if I was going to bet a total here over, it would be the Dallas Cowboys and team total. I don't know. Okay. You'd have to go in there to somewhere in the props or something, but it's there on the DraftKings Sportsbook because I think the main thing and maybe the most relevant thing, because we heard Jerry Jones talk about Zeke's going to get like 30 carries this week. Well, it's actually not that bad a spot. The recent performance of the Saints D-line has not been good against the run. So that's like the thing I would be betting over there. But you're right. The under for the game might be the spot too, because how are the Saints going to score more than like 14, 17 points? I don't know. I agree. So I don't know.
Yeah. The team total for the Cowboys is 26.5, Geoff.
It's pretty big, but still, I mean, I do think that there's a very solid chance. I mean, Dallas ends up getting to like 27, 30 points. And
like, are we convinced though that Taysom Hill is going to be the starting quarterback for the entire game? Because if I'm looking at that, like
he's been so bad though. Like, I mean,
true, but he's your second best pass catcher on that team, maybe third, right? Arguably, right? And that's I'm not saying it's funny, it's true, right? Like if I don't see how they can move the ball. Like Dallas's defense, like it can be shredded, like it's Swiss cheese. It'll look like Swiss cheese against the Raiders. But the thing that the Raiders have is they have a field stretcher and they have a quarterback now in Derek Carr that has the league leading in big time throws on PFF.
Yeah.
Like it's his deep ball passing, which you see that their efficiency per play when they have someone like a Deshaun Jackson who can stretch the field, and they do in the Saints, right, with Deante Harris. The thing is, Taysom Hill does not throw a deep ball. He doesn't. He throws that 12-yard curl to Mike Thomas, or he runs it. Like, I just don't think there's enough there for the Saints unless they win the turnover battle, which is, it can happen.
Yeah,
I just don't see it, especially when you got full strength at the receivers for Dallas.
I mean, it's what he did at BYU too. Like he's a one read guy. If his first read is not there, like he's so athletic. He's going to run the hell out of the football because that is almost his strength over throwing it.
Yeah,
absolutely. It's a strength. He's a fullback, essentially.
Dan Quinn has athletic linebackers too with Keanu Neal. Like, Keanu Neal has been there. He's going to be someone that's probably going to be spotting Taysom Hill. I don't see it. But Micah Parsons might not get any sacks because Taysom Hill he can elude pressure fairly well. But I'd also venture to say that if you're looking at DST props or IDP props, interception's not out of the question at all, because I just don't see who they're going to throw to. And Taysom throws a hard ball too. Like if that thing like ricochets off of a shoulder pad, better believe Diggs and these guys are going to be ball hawks. I don't see it, man. I know Thursdays are weird, but
I think the Saints need some kind of like special teams play here or something to grab a win. Cause I think everything you said is exactly what I was thinking. Is the Cowboys have the athletes and the secondary, the linebackers to at least keep up with Taysom Hill. So I don't think he's going to go crazy on big plays. And he's, he might be, if he can connect with like, I don't even know who's his possession receiver. It's not a good spot. I just wish it was like a team other than the Cowboys who have looked kind of just pathetic on offense the last couple of weeks, but that can switch. So.
Yeah.
Was there any of these dudes we've talked about, any of them worth paying 1.5 times the salary for? Probably stuff inside that showdown contest. Another Millie maker there for DK. Is Dak the obvious choice here? Do you have to go Dak? Is there a sneaky captain play? I feel like you're someone who always kind of attacks that sneaky angle, Geoff.
I mean, I think Tony Pollard could be sneaky. I think Dallas is really going to try and run the ball here and just play a little ball control. Pollard, he's got how many targets? 13 targets over his last 3 games. Excuse me. So he's on the field a ton. I think Zeke is like the sort of safer floor guy, but if you want to go with a sneaky Dallas player, I mean, I definitely think that Pollard is probably the guy. I mean, there's definitely a scenario where, either he goes for a long catch or he just gets a goal line touch and maybe the scoring's a bit spread out, but that's one way to look at it. I think the other guy is Gallup, right? If Cooper misses this game, Michael Gallup is a good player. He's a good down. He does everything good. I mean, 5 catches, 21 yards per catch in the last game against Vegas. So Gallup probably like a little bit better upside just because obviously like as a receiver, the big plays are there more often, but Pollard's kind of in a similar boat too. I don't think either of those guys will be super heavily owned. If Cooper misses, I guess Gallup will get some ownership, but those would be the 2 guys I'd look for. It's got to be someone on Dallas's offense. I just don't think there's enough upside because of Taysom Hill starting with to take a shot like that on a New Orleans player.
I mean, Pollard's like emerged as this legitimate second punch. Some say he should actually be the first option there in the backfield for Dallas. What route would you go in here, Reid?
Yeah, I think what Geoff was saying that, you want to attack the Dallas side, right? Because their implied team total is 26.5. This is, 47.5 over under 47, wherever it's going to land. The one thing about Taysom Hill, though, is from what we saw last year, is that he targets one guy. We talked about it, right? First read, he's going to target one guy. Like, who's that going to be, right? I think if you're looking at the Saints side, who is that guy going to be? Is it going to be Marquez Callaway, right? At $9,600? Probably not. I don't know. I think it's Traequan Smith. I mean, I've liked this guy for a while. He's been the guy that's been running the most routes. He didn't get a ton, right? He got 5 targets, 4 receptions, 31. I think Traequan is someone that we have to pay attention to if we're looking at the Saints, is because he's probably the closest guy that Taysom Hill has had work with, not named Mike Thomas. That's probably the one person that I don't know if I'd captain him. I think that's asking a little bit too much. But I do think that Traequan Smith does deserve some notice because of what he's doing and just the usage, right? The ancillary stats are there for Traequan Smith. Other than that, I think you have to go on the Dallas side. I love the Pollard call because I think, and this is another thing, guys, too. Never trust Pete Carroll on like injury reports, and never trust Jerry Jones on player reports. Right? Like he comes out and he says, Zeke's going to get this huge load of work. And then like seconds later, like Zeke's a little bit banged up. He's a little bit limited. I mean, come on. This guy's like, I'd love to play Jerry Jones at poker and have like an unlimited bankroll like he has, because his tells they're so obvious. Right? Like he's like, come on. Like, why would he too? Like, why would Zeke have a huge role when Tony Pollard is clearly a better player for that offense? Right? You got a spread offense. You got Dak who can easily give it off to Tony Pollard. It would be silly. It would be silly for Kellen Moore to give Zeke a huge workload against one of the best, right, over the entire season, run defenses. It's asinine. So I love that Tony Pollard call.
It's a terrific word, asinine, too.
That's a great word. I never spell it correctly either. I spell it a lot more dirty than it should be.
I don't hate the Callaway pick, though. I mean, leading the Saints here in targets.
Callaway, one of your
six touchdowns. I mean, no, possibly.
There it is.
But, like, right? I don't know if you got to go with
probably going to get,
Saints.
at least 6 targets. You got to project him for here. I mean, the minimum. He could see, he could see if he gets a connection early. Maybe they just run him on that, like Reid said, that curl route. And I don't know, man.
Like Deante Harris for a while was getting just deep ball after deep ball. And you look at his week 8, week 9, 8 targets, 7 targets. I mean, he's sort of that speedster.
Does he still return kicks for them?
I think he does. Actually, I don't know.
I think so. But again, it's like
I wouldn't play him in the captain, but I do think Deante Harris is a good flex play.
Yeah, because I mean, speed against a Dan Quinn defense. Dan Quinn runs that sort of. He blitzes when he definitely needs to, and he has the players that are sort of that hybrid linebacker role. But man, if there is a deficiency in that Dallas defense, it's that guy going downfield. We saw Deshaun Jackson actually run the right direction, and he played really well. Like if you get up early, and that's the other thing too, right? If you get up early against Dallas, then that's when you could see Sean Payton using Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram, and then just control the clock. I think that's the only chance that New Orleans has to win is to get up early. Maybe if they win the coin toss, they want to receive, and then their 20 scripted plays get them to the end zone. But I don't know. I just don't see it, even at home.
Anything else from this one, or you want to go ahead and take off for the main slate on Sunday? Yeah, baby. Give it to me. Fowler, which spread you most confident in betting?
Boy, this week is look how many home dogs we have too. I do not trust Seattle. Cross that one off the board.
We know, baby. We know. Also, just side note, there's nothing better than watching Reid angry tweet a Seattle Seahawks game. It's always entertaining.
Angry tweet anything.
Oh, yes. Because
whenever I see Reid angry tweet something, I just kind of I got something to do here, baby, and I just wait.
Sit back. Because, again, you know how many drafts I deleted. But I think the one that I'm interested in here, where is it? Is actually the Washington football team in Vegas.
Oh, okay.
I think the better team is getting points. Trust me. I want to say the Raiders are the better team here. I don't think they are. A big win against Dallas, I think, brings this number closer to the Raiders. I think you're still getting it below 3, below that key number. And the Washington football team, if you wanted to tease us up to 8.5 as 1/2, I completely understand that. I just think when you take a look at their defense right now, how well they're playing, and Taylor Heineke, excuse me, being able to navigate this offense extremely efficient, not necessarily good for fantasy purposes, but an offense now that Antonio Gibson, why did it take 14 weeks for Antonio Gibson to get this type of workload? You're seeing this offense gel really nicely. And again, targeting a guy like Terry McLaurin.
Yep.
I think this is a spot that you want to get on Washington football team, even on the road, especially if they lean on Antonio Gibson. And their defense, they're getting pressure without Chase Young. So if that's the case, give me a Washington football team at +2.5 before it starts to get a little bit lower than that. People start to realize that I think the better team, and look, no Darren Waller either. Foster Moreau was nice. He's all right, but he's no Darren Waller. So when you have that, when you have the speed that the Washington football team has on the defensive side and the defensive line, we know that you put pressure around Derek Carr's feet, he will throw interception after interception. So I like the Washington football team getting 2.5.
Yeah, and your boys haven't been particularly strong at home either. Like ATS, I believe 1-4 in their last 5 at Allegiant Stadium there against the spread. Ulrich, what about you, man? Which one really stands out to you?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have no problem with that call with the Washington football team. I mean, this is a team that was a team I was expecting to be good all year. So it's pretty disappointing when they started so poorly. But their defense is definitely playing a little bit better. I think even though Russ is playing bad, like you had to give him a little bit of credit for last week. So there's first, I'll mention the Miami game first, because on Monday I did the slate with Glasheen and it's Lamarca. And I think the Dolphins were either at 3 or 3.5. And we said like this Dolphins defense is playing so good right now. They're back to full health. And like, why is it like a neutral line with the Giants who have injury concerns?
Yep.
And just aren't like a very good football team. Why is that line still like basically just saying these teams are equal? They're not. Now it's moved to 4.5. And I got to say, I don't think I care. I'd still take the Dolphins there. I still think they're a solid bet. I think that defense is going to absolutely ruin Daniel Jones. I don't think the Giants are going to score like more than 13 points. So I think the Dolphins are fine there. And I'd get ready to throw up in your mouth for this next one, because this one is like, no one's going to like this. But the Pittsburgh Steelers +4.5 at home.
Okay.
I'm telling you, man.
I thought you were going somewhere else.
This is classic Steelers. Classic. Look terrible. Get blown out. Come back. All the money's on the other side. I'm so pumped up that I'm striking my own microphone. All the money's on the other side, and all the money is on the Baltimore Ravens right now. And this line has already moved from 3 to 4.5. Steelers play close games. They play ugly games. They've done that all season for the most part, outside of like a couple bad losses.
Same with Baltimore.
You look back before that blowout, it was a bunch of like 3-point games. I just, with 4.5 at home, you in a division game, man, like I think this is Steelers probably going to bounce back. Their defense will probably muck it up. And look, this really comes down to Baltimore. I just don't think they're that good. So I don't think Baltimore should be getting 4.5 on the road here. So I mean, I'll take the Steelers.
The Ravens certainly are getting any.
Where did you think I was going?
Style points. I thought you were going to say Jacksonville could go and cover in LA. That's what I thought. That's what I thought you were going to say, dude.
I mean, with Matthew Stafford out there and with a walker these days, I mean, it could be a good spot. I don't know.
Well, 2 things I want to mention, that like the Giants, they might have neck goat Glennon out there.
Oh, right. That's right. Yeah. I didn't even forgot about that. That's probably part of the reason why the lines moved. But I mean, regardless, I don't even care if Daniel Jones starts, man. Like,
right. Exactly.
The Dolphins are playing good. Like, they're a good team. Brian Flores, I know you mentioned it before. He's a good coach. Like, he's got his guys back. So. And
the Steelers too. I mean, the Steelers are going to be without, I think Spillane is banged up, linebacker. Hayden should be back. I think Tomlin is saying, I hope he can come back this week. And we know TJ Watt is out on the COVID list. So like TJ Watt's got a lot of love in the market, right? Because I think this line, like you mentioned, it moved a point and a half, whatever it is.
The last thing before you finish, just you can probably wait on this. Like, you don't have to get in right now. Right. Wait to see if it gets to 5.5 or something. It probably will. So
yeah, and I think like you were mentioning, Geoff, the Ravens, I think they've looked a lot better in like the win-loss category, right? People look at their record and be like, oh my God, the Ravens are, less than 5 points. But they've gotten, like I think we talked about this. Like, I was bullish on the Ravens maybe a couple of weeks ago, maybe even last week. And looking at like their offense now, right? Loss in Miami. And I know Pierce feels differently about that Miami game, but you still lose to Miami. Maybe we were a week late thinking that Miami was good.
Probably.
Then ugly wins, right, against Cleveland and Chicago. We know Lamar wasn't in that Chicago game, but still, like, it just doesn't. It's not gelling right now for the Ravens. And look, their defense is a little bit stronger. I'd probably side with the Ravens, but even then, right? Like I do not feel comfortable. And so like with that being said, the Steelers at plus 4.5 becomes enticing, and even taking alt lines too, if you wanted to. I wouldn't tease this because who knows, but like it was just like the Ravens right now, there's a lot of question marks with Lamar. He's not accurate at all. And
those 4 interceptions the other night, dude.
Oh my goodness. It was terrible. It was terrible. And look, it might have been some residual from him being sick, but still, like, it's, you go out there, you say you can play, maybe throw it to your guy when he's wide open and not 3 yards to his right. The defender is right there.
It's an AFC North game. They tend to be grinded out, like the quick passing with the Steelers and the tough running of Najee Harris could probably keep it close. Justin Tucker probably kicks a field goal as time expires for the win, but Steelers still go out of their covering. And you got to give it to Miami. You got to give it to Tua, who's putting it together like a little bit. Jalen Waddle's breaking out. Myles Gaskin looks much better out of the backfield. They can make it 5 wins in a row against the Giants. And then, guys, we could be talking about a Dolphins team on a 6-game win streak because they host the Jets next week. This sets up for a dub and a cover.
If you watch, our last thing we said on the show on Monday, like if we say anything, take the Dolphins at -3 or whatever it was. And I still think the line isn't correct. I think Dolphins should be like 5.5 here. I still think that at 4.5, you'll probably see it move too. If Glennon, even if Daniel Jones plays. So I really like that spot, man. Miami's playing good football right now.
You say producer Eamon just dropped in, so it does look like Taysom Hill will be starting like a quarterback for the Saints, and then Alvin Kamara he remains questionable. So is that the latest injury report for tomorrow night, Eamon? I'm assuming. Anything else you guys want to hit on, at least on the betting side for the Week 13 slate? We can get some quick DFS, and then I do want to talk to you guys about Tiger and the Hero World Challenge real quick. So anything else here?
Well, what do you think about like if these guys are this Jets-Eagles game? I don't know why I'm saying this because who cares about the Jets right now? But if Joe Flacco is starting, I don't know if this 2021 I'd ever say this, but if Joe Flacco or Mike White start, and I'm sure it's probably going to be between Joe Flacco and Zach Wilson, like the Jets getting a touchdown at home against an Eagles team that's banged up, I don't feel comfortable about it. But like we talk about, the Lions, we got the Bears, the Texans, right? Like these home dogs, the Jets are +7, the Falcons are at +11. One of these teams is going to cover.
Yep.
Like one of these teams is going to cover. I probably feel the most confident, and that confident percentage is like 10 to 8%. That is the Jets. Now
let's rank them. We've got the Texans, Lions, Jets, and Bears. All 7 or bigger.
Yeah.
Texans are at 8.5. The other teams are at 7.
I'd honestly I'd side with right now that I'm most bullish on the Jets covering, then the Bears if you're getting it early, if you're getting it early because who knows if Kyler is in or out. We have no idea. The Texans, like this one seems weird because we know how good the Colts are. Why is this still single digits? Right? Maybe because it's division. I don't get it. And then the Falcons are probably my least favorite of that. But I'd probably go with the Jets over the Bears right now.
But dude, I feel like it's every game with the Vikings too. Every game with the Vikings just feels like it's a 1-possession game. Like week in and week out. Not to mention Lions 4-1 ATS in their last 5. The Vikings have sucked as a favorite. Like 1-8 ATS in their last 9 as a favorite. I'm not saying the Lions get out of there with a straight up win, but like covering doesn't seem like too crazy. And I know both of you are huge Kirk Cousins guys.
Wow.
Almost like they have an overrated quarterback. I'm glad you brought that up. I don't know. I think between the Jets and the Lions, I would actually almost rather prefer the Lions for what reasons Emerson brought up. Alex Madison also isn't Dalvin Cook. Like I know I sometimes make like the RBs don't matter kind of argument, but like Madison does not have the explosiveness. They definitely lose something there.
But he's been good. He's been the 2 games he started earlier this year when Cook was out for an ankle. He exceeded more than 100 yards rushing in each game.
Yeah, he's okay, but
that's not bad.
I think the Lions will be able to run the ball too on the Vikings. Like I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Minnesota lost this game. I think Minnesota is okay, but they'll probably win because Justin Jefferson will bail them out or something with a couple nice plays. But 7 points with the Vikings, like Emerson said. I mean, trusting that team with Mike Zimmer, like how bad they've been against the spread the last couple of years, man. Like that is, I do not want to take on the Vikings there, which kind of just leads you to think you should probably be taking the Lions with the points.
Well, the Lions ATS, aren't they? I mean, they're like 6-4. Aren't they? They're pretty high up there.
Yeah, they're 4-1 ATS in their last 5.
Yeah.
7-4. Yeah, they covered last week. That's right. With Chicago. Like that's probably the biggest discrepancy of actual straight up and ATS, right? Is that they just cover. Like we have this idea that they don't. I mean, like talking about RBs, like Jamal Williams is not DeAndre Swift. Right? Like
that's true. It's true. I guess my argument goes both ways. So.
And like, Josh Reynolds is, he's not Justin Jefferson. I know we can make that comparison, but like who do the Lions have? Like, I think when you talk about running backs, and I think we as a fantasy industry get so bogged up with the stats and say, oh, Madison's got over 100 yards, and that's nice. But from a defensive scheme standpoint, Dalvin Cook and DeAndre Swift, they demand so much more attention than a Jamal Williams and an Alexander Madison, right? They just do. And maybe that benefits the offense, right? Like an Alexander Madison doesn't have as many 8-man boxes that Dalvin Cook would. And, same with Jamal Williams and DeAndre Swift. But the defensive scheme, I think you can alleviate a lot of pressure when these game breakers like Cook and Swift aren't in the game. Williams and Madison aren't game breakers. They're good fill-ins. They're really, really good fill-ins, but they're not going to break the game wide open. We've seen DeAndre Swift take a 3-yard Jared Goff pass, 60 yards for a touchdown. Jamal Williams is not doing that. So
the Lions had a better record in the month of November than the Rams because the Lions had the one tie with Pittsburgh, and the Rams just lost all 3 games.
Right. Jared Goff loves that he's in the Motor City right now.
Right. For sure. Anything DFS wise you recommend for Sunday's main slate, Reid? You got a guy that you're super hot on, super high on?
I mean, how many times, like Austin Eckler, I know Cincinnati's good, but we're talking about running backs. I think this is the week that you want to pay up. I'm a little worried about Najee Harris. I think the price increase for Madison is a little bit too high. Leonard Fournette seems to be a guy that might be a free square at 73 just because of what he's doing so far, especially in the pass game. Brady is looking at Fournette like a bunch in the pass game. But I'm looking at these top 2 guys in Eckler and Mixon, and I'm trying to choose between the two because they're obviously fairly expensive. But both of these guys, Mixon is playing out of his GD mind right now. Like this guy in his last 2 games is averaging like 30 points, like 28 attempts, 30 attempts. That type of usage is unheard of. And he's not getting any work in the pass game. Maybe that means you want to stash Samaje Perine, because maybe Mixon gets a little bit banged up with all this usage. Yeah. Maybe a little look ahead. But these 2 guys in this specific game, I really like this Chargers-Cincinnati game. I think it can be a big one for these running backs. Maybe not necessarily in the over and the points, but I think both of these guys are definitely in play.
Geoff, give me one DFS play for Sunday.
So I'm actually really like this Chargers-Bengals game, man. I think that's where you need to go. You got a Bengals team who like yards per pass, they've been giving up more big plays. But Reid is kind of right. Like if we look at this from a strategy standpoint, I think everyone is going to roster Keenan Allen. Everyone's going to roster Joe Mixon from this game. So to be different, you go Eckler and maybe like Jamar Chase, right? I think there's a lot of potential for points in this game. I think the defenses are kind of the weaker squads here. Joe Burrow's getting healthy. Certainly the Chargers have not been good against the ground, so Mixon could just come up big again. But it wouldn't shock me to see, Cincinnati put up a bunch of yards in the air here either. So that's kind of my favorite game to stack, like Herbert, like Burrow as well. Again, I think with everybody going on Mixon, going with like a Burrow, Jamar Chase stack may actually be unique. From the other games, just trying to think if there's anyone else I just want to drop here. Tight end sucks again. I mean,
yeah, it really does. It really does. This week.
Tight end.
I think we're Waller out. I don't know. Was it Kelsey? It was just $6,000. The only guy above $6,000.
Yeah, I mean, Boston Moreau definitely going to be a nice play. I'll drop Chase Claypool again. Claypool was pretty solid last week, but like this is a player who he had 9 touchdowns last year and he's got 1 through like week 13 this year. He's getting targeted. He's playing 90% of the snaps. Like at some point, this guy's going for 2 touchdowns and like 100 yards. So everything's there. I don't think the Ravens are that a defense. I don't even think you need to worry about matchups necessarily with a guy like Claypool, and the Steelers do pass the ball. So if you want like a guy who's going to be 3% owned with upside, I'm just playing Claypool, betting him until he smashes that big game here because I feel like it's coming. So.
Yeah, back to that Chargers Bengals game real quick. I think a lot of people expect offense, at least odds makers do. 50.5 is the total. They were just tied for the highest on the main slate with Bucks Falcons. Okay, let's go to we got about 5 minutes left in show. Let's talk some golf. Hero World Challenge. It is a tournament there in the Bahamas, 20-man field, benefits Tiger Woods' charity. Did you guys want to share a quick thought? I'm not sure if you talked about it here on the slate. I know we did a little bit on the sweat. Just a real quick takeaway, Geoff, from Tiger's comments. I mean, we got to hear from him for the first time since he nearly lost his life back in February, I believe it was.
Yeah. So, I mean, let me give you what I think will be the Tiger trajectory over the next couple of years. I mean, I think next year, if he does suit up at any point, it's going to be just, I'm getting back to competition. It's not going to be like a big deal. It's going to be like a feeling out process. So I wouldn't be expecting much from Tiger next year, but I think as he gets healthier and as he gets comfortable, what you'll see is him making very like Phil Mickelson-esque runs. And what I mean by that is you won't see him for a while. He'll probably be off doing other stuff, Tiger, family stuff, but you'll see him pick spots where, oh, Tiger's played like 3 events in a row. And like, oh, the PGA Championship is in 2 weeks. Interesting. Like the results may not be there, but this guy's going to find a way to peak for certain events, just like Phil Mickelson did. So that's what I'm expecting for Tiger for the rest of his career on the PGA, like the next 5-6 years kind of thing. I think he can. I think he will win tournaments again. I just think you got to be patient and don't be betting him to win the Masters next year because like I said, it's probably going to be like a process of, okay, I'm healthy. Now I can start to try and peak for these events. But I think you will see Tiger, like maybe even more than people think. It's going to be spotty where, he's picking his spots where to peak.
Yeah. So Reid, you're not chasing the plus 3,500 odds there for him to win the Masters in 5 months, like on one leg.
How can you bet Tiger when Louis is also plus 3,500?
Exactly.
Come on.
The true GOAT, the major hunter that Louis Oosthuizen is. Just reeling off runner-ups, which is not a bad thing to do at major.
Not a bad place to be.
Yeah, not a bad place at all to be. I share the same sentiment with Geoff. I think Tiger is, you see this with all athletes, right? The weaning off process takes a lot longer than we expect, right? We're in it every single day, and we see like the grind, and we don't see the grind, but we're kind of in the weeds with what we're doing, and it's. I think one of the hardest transitions for any person, especially professional athletes, is to go from professional athlete compete at the highest level to not. And you talk about Tiger, that is at the highest form, right? Because rarely do you see players and people become the greatest of all time, right? Tom Brady is going to play till he's 50. Tiger is going to be competing until he potentially, like he mentioned, gets to a point where he physically cannot do it. I wouldn't rule out too that he's going to be more active on the Champions Tour. Guys say it all the time too. When I was at the PGA Tour Live, and I'm gonna drop this a little bit. Sorry, boys, but I know this is kind of poor form. But I was talking to Appleby and those guys, and they say that the sentiment on the Champions Tour is so much more laid back, and they have a ton of fun. It's so competitive, but it's like your club. It's like your club championship, right? And Tiger, what does he want? What does he need? He's gonna want that, right? He's gonna want to compete, but maybe at a different level. I'm not saying it's gonna happen anytime soon. He's not even at that mark yet. But to Geoff's point, see him for the majors, see him maybe for some hidden giggles, like he talked about, where he can compete and be competitive, right? So maybe we see him at like an RBC or an RSM. We shouldn't. Maybe he comes back to Pebble. Maybe he increases Pebble's, stature a little bit, because Pebble right now is not a tournament that most of these guys go to. We'll see, right? But I do agree with Geoff that we're going to see him. It's just I'm not betting him anytime soon, other than like a sentimental. Let's throw like some shekels at Tiger at Augusta, just for the hell of it.
All right, quickly then, Fowler. Who's your favorite bet for this week?
It's going to be Anthony Finau plus 1,600. Really like him. And here's another one too. Xander Xander was at plus 1,400 all week.
Okay.
And like no one talked about Xander. I see a lot of guys on Twitter being like, what about Xander? I don't mind it, but I think Tony Finau right now plus 16. Another guy, Abe Answer. I think both of those guys, like not a lot of love is going to Abe Answer's way, but I think he's someone that we need to focus on as well.
Geoff, just a 20-man field. Take your pick or give a couple of them.
I'm just gonna say I think Bryson in these spots is good. You know, like when he's not got high sentiment, he just makes so many birdies, and you need to get to like 20 under, and there's 5 par 5s.
Yeah,
I think this is the kind of place where Bryson can really excel, and you know him coming off that. I know it's just an exhibition. It was like an 8-hole event, but him coming off the loss, I mean, it probably stings a little bit. And Bryson is one of those guys like with JT who is legitimately close to Tiger. Like. It would be a big thing for him to come and just win Tiger's event. So I think Bryson, I think is a little bit undervalued. Like he's bigger odds than Spieth. I'll take that. Bigger odds than Hovland. Like Bryson wins more than those guys, man. So I think the odds there with him are fine.
Company man.
And then, all right, like in 20 seconds, if you can, do you have a favorite value play in the NHL tonight, Geoff? CJ was asking.
20s. Okay, we're switching sports. I wasn't expecting NHL.
Okay,
Connor
you don't
Garland,
have to.
Connor Garland, if I can remember anyone else off the top of my head. Oh, Jonathan Marchessault. There you go.
Okay, sweet. CJ, there you go, dude. We told you we'd take care of you, and we did that. We deliver on our promise because we love you guys. Thanks so much to Eamon and TP behind the scenes. Love you guys. Geoff, Reid, good times as always, man.
Absolutely. And you're frozen.
All right, everybody. We're out of here. We'll see you later. Much love.
Bye, everybody.